Yo, what's good? What's good? What's good?
What's good, man?
So
We're
we
back.
live on this podcast. I think we episode 89. Pardon for the miss over the holiday. What did Ken decide to leave?
Yeah.
We had the 4th of July holiday, and some things. And let me get him back in here. And so we are back, episode 89. Ken, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just out here playing games. I clicked the wrong tab on my computer.
Yeah.
I was trying to slide by like it wasn't my fault, but it was.
Yeah. So Ken, you actually I'm gonna stop this music because it's distracting. Just because it's a new feature, I probably shouldn't just be playing that. Let's see. Boom. Ken, you came up with a good idea about what to talk about today, about the sampling, and sort of as you talking, it's more like the evolution of sampling. Put us up on what you're talking about.
So yeah, we were kind of discussing over the weekend, like, hey, we should have a show, and what should it be about? And one of the things that's been on my mind a lot lately is just the overall difference of where kind of hip hop production is today versus where it was, and what that means for sampling as a whole. Like we still have. I mean, there's obviously people that are out there that are doing, kind of vintage era sampling and still not even just using golden era samplers and that kind of thing, but just in general, like, still utilizing practices of old, sampling breaks off of vinyl and digging for loops, in crates and whatnot. But that's now, it's like a niche of a niche of a niche kind of thing. And whereas it used to be, it was like, that was just how you did things. You know what I mean? That's how we all moved. It was, sure there was different ways of like, sampling off of VHS or like TV or whatever it was. But like by and large, it was digging for records, right? And now it's gotten to be this thing where there's so many tools available to us that the method of sampling has changed drastically. And then on top of that, the laws and the way things are exposed.
Yeah.
I mean, like you now have, for a long time now, I mean, you have websites that will just outright blow up everybody's shit. Like, just be like, hey, this is what was sampled on this track, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So even if it is like a hidden gem, it still gets exposed. Then on top of that, you've got AI that's able to detect what was sampled and how it was used, that sort of thing. And then you have the tools of like the availability of getting your own instruments or sample libraries, be it Splice or be it high quality VSTs and whatnot. It's like we're not limited in the same way we used to be. So I think it's just interesting to look at how, like, not even so much just genre specific, because I mean that played a role as well. Like when you look at things like going from boom bap to trap, drill, different styles of hip hop subgenres definitely always approach sampling a bit different. But now it's just gotten to this point where even the boom bap guys, like, that were like the sole, let me just loop this and throw some drums on it, or let me loop and chop, that kind of thing. Even that has changed drastically these days. So yeah. I thought it was interesting to kind of dive into that.
Yeah, man. I think too, there's so much, like you said, that plays into it. Like, if you go back to DJ culture, cats wouldn't even let you see the record that they were playing.
Right.
And that kind of played into when we start sampling and stuff, and that became a thing. It became more like people were not divulging their secrets on what loops, what samples they flipped. You had to really be a record digger to even recognize what some of the things were. That's how deep it was. And
Yeah.
then that also the amount of time on a sampler. I mean, that was a huge part of it too. You know what I mean?
That's
Having
a big part where it's
more
like
to
now.
sample in, you know.
So what'd you say, Ali?
I was saying like having to speed the record up to get more to sample in because you had a limited space to, you know, that
Yep.
also was a sound in itself, right? Because you had to do this one thing to get all that you wanted in, and then that directly affected how your track sound, right? So it also sounds different from the different sampling techniques because it's like I remember when the cable, the DVRs came out, your cable TV could record or and you could rewind. So I
Yeah.
would go on the Symphony channel, you know, that had music channels. So I would go on like the Symphony channel and just wait to hear a sample and then just rewind it and then capture it. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
crazy. That's dope though.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah. So I mean, there's so many, like, it's crazy how things have changed. You know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
that and also the fact that like before, I mean, you used to have to save your sounds on discs and whatnot, which took time to load, right? And
Yeah.
that was frustrating on its own and could kind of kill the vibe right there. But also your libraries, even if you had mad discs, it was a smaller library. And now it's like you get a sampler and it's not only is it built in with like literally gigabytes of hits, which is thousands and thousands of individual sounds, like one shots and whatnot, but also loops to work from, and you don't really have to worry about the logistics of having to clear it later and that sort of thing. So it's like, it puts people in a mindset of like, I would rather use this stuff and not get, publishing taken later and that sort of thing, or have to cut a check later on, that kind of thing. But just the fact that like, even if you don't do that, like even if you don't worry about that, you like, even for me, a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll load up a SD card with an entire record, right? Like I'll have the whole record, like I'll just sample the whole record and throw the entire thing on there, and that way, like if I'm working on something later, I can just be like, oh, let me grab this little bit here, that little bit there, you know what I mean? Whereas instead of that, it's different from the dropping a needle and like looking at the record, seeing where the break is on the record. I mean, like, oh, I can spot that spot, drop it right there, and you catch all these little like happy accidents when you do that sort of thing as well. And like, it's a whole different vibe now.
Yeah, it's a whole different vibe, and for so many reasons. I just can't get over that part. Like this, we've come so freaking far, and it felt like there was a point in time where, it feels like right around the time. Listen, you could not make Paul's Boutique or Rebel Without a Pause or Nation of Millions. It Takes a Nation of Millions type of album, or even NWA's or Ice Cube's first couple of albums. Like you could not make those albums today without it costing millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? And so like so much stuff changed with Biz Markie. That whole lawsuit that came from Biz Markie sampling. I can't even remember. Was it You Got What I Need?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that changed the game drastically. And I think what it caused was, I still think people wasn't really, like, it changed on the surface, like if you was more popular, but I still think people were just kind of like, well, yo, this is gonna make me go deeper into the digging because I just got to find samples that nobody knows. You know what I'm saying?
And what about the ones that have like past their copyright limit, right? And like some of those old like 30, I mean, well, in the 90s and the 2000s, I was looking at the 30s and 40s. Those like, you find something on that, you could just use it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
because it's public domain.
Yeah, it's public domain. So
yeah.
I forgot what the year is now, but I mean, we kind of far, so it's a lot of stuff.
That's true. I think it's, what is it? Is it 35 years? I can't remember what it exactly is, but I do know I was making a beat tape called King Rising, and on the cover of it, it has kind of, I don't know, it's a big ape, right? So the idea was that I was going to go and find Godzilla, King Kong, or whatever it was. The original movies, though. And I did research, and they were all, it was all public domain, all the samples. I still didn't trust it, though, so they don't have that stuff on it. Right. But I was straight just going to use that for all interludes within the album, within the project. And I didn't end up doing it. But, something else, too, I think when people start getting real deep into the sample and start digging more and more in the crates, I feel like, and then the limitation of the sample, I feel like sampling in general was just more creative. Like, because when you think about folks like Pete Rock and Primo and then later Dilla and all the people in between, Marley Marl even too, right? Because you can't really forget about him, but I feel like it was more creative and stuff. When I think about nowadays, what was sampled in those songs that you grew up listening to, or classic stuff, and because it's been a million interviews, and maybe you'd have come across it by doing this thing, and some of them I'm just astounded by, like that weird ass sound that Marley Marl had in MC Shan's joint, and I think recently Common and Pete Rock used it, whereas that weird sound. He had MC Shan's voice in it. That's actually like a trumpet going backwards. It's such a classic hip hop sound that you just can't even, I never knew what that was. And I think that kind of speaks to the art of the sample.
Yeah.
But here's another thing I wanted to, do y'all really remember how things switched over when people started, Ali, you mentioned looking at TV and there was an orchestra channel and you would wait for that kind of stuff. Y'all remember when things started changing, when people started going more to digital sources for samples? Was that around when the MP3 sort of revolution happened?
Yeah, I think so. And I was one of those that, because at one point I had put my record collection, gave it back to my brother because he gave it to me. And he wanted to use it, so I had to give him his records back. You know what I mean? And at the time, I wasn't privy to many record shops around the area, so had to go to MP3s and start digging there. And that's a whole different area. I mean, you'll find stuff there that you will never find in the record store. You know what I'm saying? So,
but there was also a big. I remember this vividly. There was a big rift in the community over sampling from MP3 and stuff, and
it was the Stay Real era.
Yeah, and not just that, but it was also the whole idea of the sound quality, because especially in the beginning when it was 96 kilobytes a second, 128, that kind of thing, and they were super shitty sounding samples. But what was cool was when you would time stretch a 128 kilobyte MP3, it would sound totally different than if you time stretch a sample from a record.
Because you have
the
all
artifacts pulled out differently. It just,
totally.
And that kind of became a sound in its own right for quite a while too. So, but the whole what was it? Kazaa and LimeWire and what was the other one?
Did you say LimeWire?
Yeah.
LimeWire, yeah.
Yeah, LimeWire was crazy.
LimeWire was
people talk about Napster all the time, but LimeWire was where it was at.
Yeah, LimeWire. Yeah,
it was literally the Wild Wild West.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember getting so many records that I had been digging for and could never find, and couldn't find them anywhere else. Directly through that. I remember when people were uploading, vinyl rips and stuff on there, and it was
Fully.
Oh my god,
and then
classic stuff.
Black came into the picture. It was you just had the same quality. It was recorded off of vinyl with a high quality player, high quality needle, high quality preamp, high quality audio file. You know what I mean? So it was almost,
and then the YouTube era of it, YouTube digging was, especially when YouTube first started, that was wild, because it was we had never had anything like that, where it was just regular people in their house were uploading videos, and you were getting like somebody would be on a folk guitar or something and just
It's true.
banging something out, and you'd be like, oh, that's dope. And like I can remember I did a bunch of tracks where I would just look for people like reading like kind of like diary entries or whatever on early YouTube, and I would just look for people with like interesting accents and that kind of thing, and like saying weird things, and like I would use that kind of stuff.
That's
And it's
dope.
like, because I and to this day, like I love record digging for like spoken word records. I mean, like anything from like Gil Scott-Heron to like word jazz, and like this kind of stuff was always records that I would gravitate to. So then when I was able to start finding that kind of stuff on YouTube, it was like, oh man, there's like all this whole other world of that kind of stuff. And that was crazy,
Yeah. I think YouTube allowed me to dig differently, right? So when you walk into the record shop, you looking at sections, right? So you got your soul section, your R&B, blah blah, your rock section, whatever it may be, jazz, right? It allowed me to get specific with it, right? So I would say, like 40s Japanese music, or 60s Russian funk, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'll get specific like Russian songs, or like specific like Swedish songs, or like I would go through the regions, and Lebanese songs, African, you know what I mean? Like I would get specific with countries and just listen to their music and what kind of music came out of there.
Yeah, it's wild that because like the bulk of my vinyl digging, I always did it like flea markets and thrift stores and that kind of thing. Like I never really liked record digging in record stores because I was broke. And it's like trying to, that's the other side of it, is like literally the per like sample per dollar of digging for vinyl, that was like a real factor on it. And it was, I would go flea markets, and if the record was a little scratched, other people might not want it. And I'm like, yeah, like I'll take that for $3 for $1 or something at that point. It was like, hell yeah. And then those prices started going up as more and more diggers started coming to the flea markets. It was like, oh, well, now it's $1 a record. Oh, now it's $2 a record. Oh, it's $3 a record now.
Yeah.
Like, and that kept going up and up and up. And then you started seeing, oh, well, like everything has a plastic sleeve now, and everything's like
that changed. That's when it all changed. That's right. But
yeah, and like I knew some of the guys that were digging for like more famous artists and whatnot. Like they would come through. So where I live, it's like you got Philly, Jersey, and New York, and then of course Baltimore and DC are like all pretty damn close, right? And the way that records would travel through these states, it was like you could go to flea markets and you could get a really dope selection of records. But because of that, there were guys who it was literally like that was their gig, is that they would go to flea markets record digging and then bring their selection to larger artists. Like, hey man, like this, like they would bring
curating.
Yeah, they would bring curated sample digging collections to people. And I knew a bunch of those guys, and man, when I would see them coming, I'd start digging faster and faster and faster because I knew all the good stuff was about to get swiped.
You know something that that you mentioned when cats started digging on YouTube and how it made you dig differently. It's because it was so vast. Like you could, it was beyond what you even. It didn't have to be something that you knew existed. Like you could just put keywords together before you knew they were keywords. You know what I'm saying? Japanese jazz is something I kind of found on there. Later, I would go and find Japanese jazz in the store, but because of YouTube, I found Japanese jazz. Some of it is freaking incredible. But what reminds me of, if y'all probably saw me leaning over here and talking off camera, because I was trying to figure out the name of the movie, because I can't think of no movie. I don't know any actors and no movies. And I'm always like, yeah, you remember this person, babe? That should be like, yeah. And I'm like, right, not him, but he played in a movie with this guy. So I was doing that over here because I was trying to find the name of Bruce Almighty, because it reminds me, like, remember when there's a scene in Bruce Almighty when everybody's praying to God, he opens the computer and the email is like a million, is trillions of emails hitting them. That's like, to me, what it was like when YouTube digging started happening,
right?
MP3 digging started happening, because all of a sudden you got access to everything and not just what's in your local store or your family members' record stash and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a game changer, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you mention curated loops? Like that, I feel like was a turning point right there. I remember early on where there was probably, and I can't think of the name of the place, but it was probably one place online where you could buy sample packs, drum sample packs. And I still got some of those drums with my MPC 2000 XL, old discs, zip discs and stuff. But you could buy them online. It was early 2000s, and they was like early with it. You know, they was over there. There's no telling how many archaic machines they had going to, to sell this stuff. They was early on the digital downloads and stuff. And I feel like from those early days to also combining with the curated loops and all that kind of stuff, that was the rise of the sample pack era. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. That was
he said Sample Kings. I remember them. But
Sample Kings, that's it.
Yeah.
I remember
never
getting
really used packs like that.
I remember getting their like VHS tapes and DVDs of like how to use a Roland VS recorder and that kind of thing. Like they used to do video manuals and stuff back in the day. And but yeah, like that's the thing.
That's right. Yeah.
Is for a long time it was kind of like if you didn't physically put hand on vinyl to dig for the record, like that was kind of like sacrilege for a while. And then that started to shift, and then it started to, you know, and of course you had DJ pools and all that, but that's not really the same. But it was really when it started to be like just individual breaks like being sold. Like that was kind of wild, because it was like I can remember there was certain break records like bongo breaks and stuff like that I was always searching for, and like I knew certain records had certain breaks, and it's like if you didn't get that record, you didn't have it. You know what I mean? And yeah, there was like ultimate breaks collections and stuff that came out, but that wasn't the same. Like it wasn't always that I wanted that exact drum break. It was more that I wanted to hear the rest, like to sample from the rest of the track. Like for instance, like Nautilus, right? It's like, okay, everybody's flipped Nautilus like 100 times. That's like a rite of passage is flipping Nautilus, right? And it's like you needed that record in order to have that, you know what I mean? To have that skill in your bag of like, okay, like I know this part, I know that part of it. I know where the Method Man track comes in. I know where the you know, where Fresh Prince got this piece. I know where this came in, you know what I mean? Like, but it was later on you started seeing like, okay, like there's these whole collections of this stuff put out, you know, and you could just download the whole thing. Like that 300, you remember that 300 breaks file? That thing was like infamous.
All the breaks, it was infamous.
I still use that. I still use that joint.
Yeah, exactly right. I feel
still
like
use it. I love it.
You can't not have those kinds of things. Like I'm gonna tell you this. There's all the breaks that was like, it was for a long time. You know, people's trying to figure out where to get it, and I was able to get my hands on it and having all the breaks. But there was a lot of controversy behind that too.
Yep.
Though. Like, I mean, especially from well-known DJs and producers, and I feel like New York must have been on fire in that scene. You know what I mean? Because there was New York DJs that go way back that were putting these breaks together as compilation records, and then later as full downloads of everything. And there was some people that was highly salty about that, like big time.
But the interesting thing is now you have with like Splice and that kind of thing going on. What's really wild is that you get these curated collections, and so there's you've got like the whole Splice side of things, but you also got like the Tracklib side of things, where now it's like there's collection. You can sign up and have like collections of stuff that's already approved for you to flip it on. I gotta be honest with you. There's something about that never appealed to me. Like, as far as like just it's almost like if you went and you bought record, like it's one thing to have like a classic break and you're like, okay, I want to use those drums like in this new way. I want to do whatever it is with this particular break. But it's another thing to like, so if you were flipping Nautilus, you were flipping it your own way, and that was like a special thing, right? Because like it has its own special place. But what you didn't do is you didn't go and like, if my homie Joel sampled something, I wasn't trying to find the same record that he sampled and then go sample that same track. Like, that was a big no-no.
Yeah.
Like, if you did that, like, you're biting, and that's not okay. So curated collections on these websites like Tracklib and that sort of thing always felt weird to me, because it's like you're not discovering it, discovering for yourself. But you're not discovering it. It's kind of like it's already there, like in this field of like, here's what you have. Like, we're feeding this to you on a platter, and you should use this kind of thing. It's not mentally right for me to not like that, but I always hated that. Like, I'm like, nah, man, I want to find this on my own. And
it's about the chase sometimes.
It's 100% about that chase. And that what's weird is like you could dig a record, right, and not know a thing about it, and then be like in love with it, sample it up, and then you find out later on, oh, well, like XYZ used that record too, right? And I would always kind of feel some kind of way about that, but at the same time, I knew that I came about it organically, right? Whereas if I did that in Tracklib, like, that would irk me to my core. Like, it's not the same thing to me.
Yeah, there's some changes there, right? Like, is that buzzing coming from me? I can't tell. Probably.
I don't hear it.
Oh, you don't hear it? Good. So it's just internal to me then. If you don't hear it, good. So from the sample libraries to the, like, I think there was a certain era where, listen, some of us did our own sample libraries and made money off. That was a supplemental income to me. So, I look at it like presets. The same way the cats look at presets. Everybody ain't the type that could dig their own vinyl and make their own drums or whatever the case. I could do both, so it don't really matter. But there was definitely an era where, certainly around the time I was doing B-Boy Tech Report, where I was reviewing sample packs, and so was St. Joe and Ken, and we were either making sample packs or reviewing sample packs. And there was a certain era where MSX is a big part of that era too. So it's not surprising to see that they're partnered with, that they have legitimate business with places like Akai and Native Instruments and so forth and so on, Ableton and everything. What was the name of? There was one place that Cat was real cool. I can't think of it. I'm like you, Ken. I stayed up too late last night, so I ain't
I stayed up till 5 a.m. So,
well, I didn't stay up.
And then I was up at 9.
But yeah, so there was a part of that, and I think that led to those large format services like Tracklib and all of that.
Because people saw there was money in it.
Yeah, that's it. Companies actually saw there was money in it, right? Like, because it was no longer just like a dude from, say, Toronto who has, or Alaska, a man from Alaska with his website Drum Broker. I mean, he started out just individually, like selling drum samples to his friends, or sharing drum samples with his friends, and then he built a website with stuff that he sampled. Then he started curating all of these sample packs, and then actually I think MSX started becoming a part of that whole scene, and then there was little places popping up from that. But then it became, I think what was dope, MSX did at one point, they did vinyl. Now, it wasn't just once either. It was a point when Kingsway, MSX, and a couple other places actually did vinyl to kind of get people back to sampling. But then too, you then have to I don't remember what either of their licenses were though. But they literally would go in the studio and make entire soul and funk joints.
Yeah.
and maybe I think if you bought them, you could get the stems on digital download or something. Or maybe they would do that another time. And the next go round it'd be like a volume 2 with the stems or whatever. So that was to me, that was a whole era, and it definitely led to like those large format services and clearinghouses like Tracklib is basically what it became, that kind of thing. And you remember Converse Studio had something like this at one point?
They did, yeah. I remember I was talking to Stoney about that a while back. Like, yeah, they had like a whole sample collection thing, and also who was it? I know Bullyfinger used to sell breaks too. I remember that's pretty much how I met him was because of that stuff. And you know, now it's more, you know, he's producing all his own content and, you know, from ground up and all, but I think the start of that was from recording breaks from vinyl and curating that content and putting it out there. And yeah, it's interesting because you see all that stuff, and if you're in like NPC groups and stuff like that on Facebook or Reddit or wherever, you see the way that the people who still hold that method of music making, you see the changes even affect them. Like even the hardcore guys that are like, you know, really trying to stay in that old methodology, right? You still see it affecting them in how they produce their stuff as well. But by and large, man, it's I feel like it's a little bit of a product of a bygone era now. Like it's kind of like it's this hidden art, which was weird because it's kind of like going full circle. You know what I mean? Because it was a protected method beforehand, and now it's like getting back to that.
Like I literally didn't have a record player for like 5 years, and like last year I bought one. I got a little store down the street from my house. It's a bookstore, but they got like half a store of a record section, and like out front they got the 10 25-cent bins.
Wow, that's dope.
Bins,
that's dope.
All of that, like it just sits out front. They like, all right, these records or whatever. So
as long as it's not Engelbert Humperdinck, like when you first walk up, then you're good.
I buy like
stink, like
30, 40 records at a time, and I'm just you know, build another collection. I mean, I got really lucky. My brother gave me like 25 to 30 crates of records of sample material, not hip hop records. Like 25 to 30 crates of like.
You got extremely lucky. That was a super come up.
Yeah, because he used to make beats too. So I got his, but it took me a long time to go through it. And then when I went through it, I was done. And then YouTube was there. So it was like, I don't need this. I don't need to keep going and find it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, like the YouTube just wasn't giving me what I wanted also. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, all right, I got to go get a record player. Started getting some records. So I'm just building another collection now. And like when I get that time or when I'm cleaning up or something, I'll just put a record on. Yeah. And if I hear some shit, I'll just make sure my computer is right there to hit record.
That's dope.
Stop and then go back to whatever I'm doing with the record playing, you know, because I you know, we're older now. We don't have time to just sit there and like sample for 8 hours.
But that was the thing, is also it was exposing you to music that you probably wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise. And that really, like, that it always upsets me when I find somebody who's like involved in hip hop production and you ask them like, yo, like who do you like? What do you listen to? And they'll only mention hip hop groups. And I'm like, that's like the most non-hip hop thing you could have said. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when I'm talking to a producer and they can't name like any jazz, they can't name any like psych rock, they can't name like all these other genres, like anything that they actually like. And I'm like, that's weird to me. Like
you know, something that comes with that, yo, is something Q-Tip actually talks about sometimes, but I totally feel him on this. The idea that you know, when you kind of get up on these old samples, you start to know just like, listen, if I'm listening to Wu-Tang when that was hot, when they were first coming out, I had to know about all the dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like, same thing with old jazz records. Like, if I'm listening to like Bitches Brew or something, the first time I was learning about Miles Davis' Bitches Brew and started realizing it was like fusion, and he went through this whole thing where things were changing, and you know, Herbie Hancock was involved. Like, you start to know. And I mentioned Q-Tip because he mentioned that, you know, he would dig so much that he started to know the players. And then that would inform other.
That's how I would dig. Yeah. Like,
you know
my main thing was digging more for the session players and the studio and the producer and the engineers because, you know, on the records, they would list all of that. That's the other major. That irks me to no end, is that, like, now it's starting to get better with Apple Music and these other platforms. Now they're starting to get better about listing the credits, but they still don't list everything like they used to. Like
they used to list down to the damn instruments that folks was playing.
I'm gonna randomly grab a record out of my stacks right now.
I always dug off of the cover.
Yeah, that too. If it looked dope. Like actually, there was somebody hold up a record and it was a dude like sitting in a Cadillac with 3 chicks around him, and homie was like, "It got to be something cold."
Right.
He got this pimp record on. He got 3 bad bitches around him. Like, it got to be something cold on this.
Yeah, like even when I'm like, I pulled from one of the hip hop areas in here, not my other stuff, but like even in the hip hop records, it was telling you where the sessions were recorded, and you know. You just like, oh, speaking of Miles Davis, I got Miles Davis right here. It's like, you know, you could pull all of this right out of here and find out who the other players were, dig for those, dig for, you know, dude, I was using record digging to find out studios in Philly and New York that I could go to that were actually like had a dope sound. Like, that's how I found out about Chung King and stuff like that. Like, it was on records, and it was like, oh, okay, I can actually go to these places and check this out. But nowadays it's like a lot of this stuff gets kind of hidden in the back, and it's like, you know, it makes it a little bit harder to find that stuff out. Now, granted, we also on the flip side of it, we have access through the internet now like we've never had before. I mean, now you can
find out.
And there's always somebody who knows more than you too, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like you can always go onto the internet and just be like, hey, who did XYZ and blah, blah, blah. And you'll get, you know, 75 pages on some forum about, oh, it was this guy at this time. And
you the might moon even was like this. you know, so here's another thing too. Like, I feel like there's a almost full circle, like you were saying. You bought a record, a turntable after all these years, and it feels like it's full circle. Here's another thing. I feel like technology makes folks want to go full circle and go back to sampling vinyl. One, because if you want a unique sound, you probably should go and kind of curate your own sound one way or the other, wherever you're digging at. But I think too, the evolution and the sample technology is kind of inspiring folks to go back, because now you could do stem separation on records that, you know, like, honestly, I know coming up, there was times when I'm like, yo, I wish we could just have them drums or just have that bass.
Rolls Royce was the one that, to me, I love Rolls Royce records, man.
They are some,
and she would have long pieces where she just like talks, but the music behind her talking, like, first off, what she was saying is fire, but like, you know, she'd be like, man, he was cheating on me and this and that, like, yo. But then like behind the music behind it was so dope, and I was like, man, I'm just like trying to get that little slice in between her words right here. And now it's like, bro, you just throw that thing in there and stem separate it all out, and you're like, oh, you have access to like these amazing soul pieces that like previously you couldn't have. And then on top of that, you could throw it into your DAW, and you have access to MIDI manipulate polyphonically everything that's in it. So like you could put it in a new key, and you can do this, like the flexibility of the same stuff that we were sampling back in the day. If you revisit it with the modern techniques,
technology, I think
it's a whole other ballgame.
That's the next level stuff right there. You know what I mean? Like that's part of the reason I started getting into synths so much, because there was stuff that I couldn't grab without other stuff that I didn't want on it. Like there'd be parts and melodic stuff, all the coolest stuff that sit in the background. It's either smothered or it's some talking or singing over it,
or the mixdown was crap. Like, let's be real, a lot of early jazz records are super dope, but the drums sound trash on them. Like,
that's right.
Like a lot of them, you're like, man, like the kick just doesn't get picked up well in this record, and it's, and now you can actually pull that stuff out and remaster just the drums, and then throw it all back together, and then it's crazy.
Also, what you can do is take that song, turn it into MIDI. Now you have the notes, right?
Exactly.
And then you can put your own sound on it, reconfigure some things,
change up,
or just interpolate the sample all together, and then on top of that, what's really wild is, and this gets back to the conversation we had in the last show, which is like you can do that same thing and be like, throw that into an AI synthesis program where it'll reconstruct the sound, but not with samples, with synthesis, and it's like that's a pretty gray area at this point where it looks like, hey, you don't have to pay for shit.
Yeah, that's where we are. But do you think that's more where it's going?
Oh, I think that's going to get way deeper. Yeah, I think that doesn't stop. I think that in 5 to 10 years time, you're going to see the ability to put any piece of music into software, have it fully stem separated, then resynthesized in a way that like destroys the original. Like you're not using the source material at all at that point, and then eventually there'll be some kind of law that gets constructed around this stuff, and that law will be broken because it'll be made by people who have no idea what they're doing. So yeah, that's going to be that's the future. I mean, like, well, that, and of course people just have not even making music and just saying, oh, I want this, but I don't think human made music ever goes away.
Ways, like, think about it. People aren't playing music instruments like they were back in the day.
It's true.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's very true. People are not playing their prompting, and even I think people aren't programming the way they were. Like, because that was another thing. Like, there was a point when you could come up and you're playing some sort of instrument, but then it got to a point where nobody's playing any instruments. It's just all programming, and people could get so good at programming stuff that it would sound like instruments. Now you have the help of the different synth technology, sample technology, DAW technology, and AI, and all these different things, stem separation, that like you could do just about anything. And then more like there's even machines that are out now that really are like, and I ain't, I don't want to besmirch nobody's technique. You know what I'm saying? But there's machines out there that don't feel like making music. It feels more like programming, or just kind of entering a prompt of some sort, or you know what I mean? Like it just kind of feels more like dictating or guiding.
Well, there's also, I mean, outside of hip hop, there's also, I mean, I've seen, there's a whole genre of music and music style of production that is literally just live coding the music. Like,
word, yeah, that's true.
And that's wild to me. Like that
is wild.
That's even a thing, and that's been a thing for a while now. But it's like doing that, but vibe coding it. You know what I mean? And doing these, you're having music producers that aren't producing anything. They're directing prompts, and that's going to be like a whole other subgenre of type of musician now, is going to be a director who just directs some AI thing. But I don't think that human music production, like, that doesn't go away ever, because I think it's in our souls, like it's in our DNA. Like ever since we were cavemen, we were banging on stuff, I'm
gonna say this. It's getting better, but you still cannot replicate a physical instrument on the computer. I mean,
I think that that's coming though. Like I think we're still in the infancy.
Almost there, but it's like you can't represent that human feel of that little micro timing that one person does. You know what I'm saying? Like those type of things are you can't replicate that in a computer if you're actually playing the physical instrument.
The nuances
will never be as good in the computer. Like,
like it's something very different.
I always hesitate to say never
together.
because like the technology of today is magic, to people of the past. So it's like I'm always hesitant to say never because
I don't mean to say never, but like you can't, like the human feel of actually putting physical touch to a physical instrument. It just sounds better.
There's a soul connection there that's intangible, that it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, we can say that about so many different things, like an actual physical paintbrush versus, digital paint, where it's like the digital paintbrush has the texture, has all this, nuance to it. And it's like, there's all these ways of like, like physical modeling, synthesis, and to a real instrument, and there's all these ways of getting so close to things, but nothing ever replaces the inspiration that comes from these mediums. So it's like, even if you're really into doing things on a screen, right, and with a mouse and all that, like that could be one person's inspiration, and that's fine. But another person who gravitates to a piano or something like that, technically a piano is just a bunch of buttons, right? And it's like, but it's that inspiration, the intangible inspiration of the entire experience of how you're doing something, right? Will always alter your art.
Yeah. And I also think is one thing to keep in mind about how everything has its evolution, right? And then, but the human, like I always say, like, listen, we're all in the music industry from a manufacturing and music maker perspective. And actually, I'm gonna give a little applause to that, because a couple years ago that wasn't the case, but all of us are in that space now. And so there's something about how certain instruments, certain things, certain tools can be made for a person to do X. But then in hip hop, we've always taken things and created something totally different with it. And I kind of feel like in that same spirit, the way things are going full circle, where, samples to, these clearinghouses with all these samples, and even the technology is changing and all of that. And the idea of like machines making the music and people just prompting a vibe code and all of that. I personally feel like with, the human made thing is going to be the people that will excel is going to be the folks that can take bits of all of those things and create something fresh every time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You ever watch an advertisement like nowadays, and like you can tell like which AI program made that song that's in that advertisement?
Yeah, it's getting to that point.
Like it irks me, man. Like I find that I have a negative response whenever I see like an advert and the music is AI. Like, and it's not even like AI is evil, it's stealing everybody, all these musicians' job thing. It's not even that. It's like there's just something about that like feels inauthentic and ingenuine to me in a way that like I have this knee-jerk subconscious reaction that I'm like, man, I don't like this. Like there was some kind of ad that popped up on my Instagram feed the other day, and it was like kind of in the ad, it was somebody like rapping or something, and I knew it was AI. It was Suno. Like I could hear it. Like, and I'm like,
but
I don't like this.
This is, what I think too. There's something that's so meta about some of the ways that things are happening. When I say people taking all these different things, and then people are prompting AI to create samples that they can then chop and flip. I mean, look at BBL Drizzy, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Like homie made BBL Drizzy off an AI prompt, and then it got remade a million times. People were sampling it, flipping it into all these different things. It started out as an AI soul song, like almost like Motown style. Next thing you know, it's like bona fide hit music. Like somebody made some old dusty samples.
Is that wrong to do?
No, honestly, like I look at it like, yo,
prompt AI to generate you a dope ass Motown inspired soul track and then chop that shit up and make a type beat out of it? I don't really think so. Because
and I think as long as you make it your own and like do something with it, because that's the other side of it is like, at what point do we all as a not even as a hip hop culture, but as a society in general, like at what point does it hit us to where we all become so lazy? Like already it's like, you know, so like calculators are in schools, for instance, now. Like when we were growing up, that was not a thing, right? And I say this as someone who's trash at math, right? So I'm not knocking anybody. But my point is like, there's going to be lost fragments of society as this continues. You know what I mean? Like as it goes down that path,
of course, and that's a whole nother story.
Well, just like a trumpet player, for instance, right? Like there's still a million amazing trumpet players out there, but maybe the draw of needing a trumpet player and what causes someone to pick up a trumpet to start learning how to play it, you know, starts to diminish, right? And that's a little worrisome. Like when you see, like,
I'm saying, like,
you know,
at what point is it okay and not okay? But you know, I don't know.
For creators' sake, I mean, I think we're gonna see a little bit of all of that. You know, I want to go back to something that was mentioned. We kind of at time, but I want to go back to something that was mentioned about the instruments and the real touch and feel and all of that. Like, I think that there's really, really something to that about creating music with instruments that you interact with. Like, that's kind of how I design my products, is that I want personally to be able to interact with them. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's also part of what drew me to Eurorack too.
Same.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're physically patching, twisting, right? Like there's something to that. So I kind of like all of that stuff is just a human sort of nature of things. And I don't think we're going to lose that. I just think it's going to be augmented like something ugly. But all the tools that everybody uses to do the stuff is going to be much different.
I do worry about like the level of skill can go down. Like if you have a lot less people playing, ultimately you've got a smaller talent pool for that cream to rise to the top kind of thing.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
You're actually right. Because I mean, that's even like beyond music. My daughter was saying not long ago, she was like, it freaks me out how people are saying that, you know, grade school teachers are saying that kids can't write. They cannot physically use the utensil to write. Because it's all typing and texting and all of that stuff now. There's, you know, that whole thing has left. Like, I mean, you got generations before us that don't know how to or after us that don't know how to write in cursive.
Don't ask me to use a slide rule or an abacus. So
you know what I mean? And so I think that sort of stuff is going to translate over into all the things, the arts, you know, the design, music, and all of that stuff. But I do think there's going to be people that totally, like, when I think of somebody like Dilla, when the MPC 3000 introduced all these different features, and he was able to create Dilla time out of that, just by way of how he was using it. I do think it's going to be people that's going to transcend and sort of rise to the top. It's going to be there's a lot of Michael Jordans out there that you never knew their name.
Yeah.
Do you think that this has affected singing at all? Because I feel like singing was the first instrument to really get butchered by technology in a way where I always go back to my conspiracy theory. I got a conspiracy theory that I think that the overusage of auto-tune is a plot against soul in music. And it's like soul is one of those things that doesn't cost you a dime, right? It's something that everybody can have. And if you find a way to remove that from the music and remove that touching emotion out of the music, right? Like, and replace it with this false emotion that to me is basically what happens with a lot of auto-tune. You kind of can control the masses in a way. Like it's an extra tool. And I know it's a conspiracy theory, but like
auto-tune.
What's that?
T-Pain should be the only one allowed to use auto-tune.
Well, and that's the thing is like it's not even a thing of like where I'm like, yo, nobody should be able to use this, blah blah blah. But it's the overusage of an entire like sweeping genre where it's like artists now like that are not singers that will tell you that they're not singers, blah blah blah, like, and couldn't, you know, are practically tone deaf, will be using this stuff in that way. And the thing is like there's still amazing natural singers out there.
This is what
a lot of amazing natural singers.
I personally feel like, you know, when it all is said and done, the voice is the first instrument. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just kind of feel like before all things, there's the voice. And there's like, for instance, why did I start MCing as a young kid? Because I didn't have instruments around me. So it was the voice. What I could do, and the thing of the time was, you know, spit a rhyme. And that's what I did and perfected that. Became that thing. You
should have prompted that rhyme.
Yeah. Nowadays they probably are. I mean, you got, and two, I just kind of think there's one of those things that you won't lose. You'll probably have a lot more people taking advantage of technology to make themselves sound like they can sing. But when the chips fall down, when you got to stand flat-footed in front of somebody, you better be able to do it. Yeah. And I think too, people that just really love to sing need nothing else. And it's not about make me sound like this on a record. For people that love to sing, it's about nailing the run, nailing the note, nailing the pitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something about that that's just so joyous to folks that know how to sing. Like, you know, you see it's like there be challenges of like people doing certain runs, or who can get this run right. And people that really love to sing, that's a whole universe.
And then like there's still
muscle. You know what I'm saying? It's it's like lifting weights for a weightlifter. You know what I mean?
Like I talked to Sheeta, and she, you know, she's a vocal coach. And when I see the skill and care that goes into that instrument, the voice is an instrument, right? It's like, man, you don't ever want to see that kind of skill go away. Like these are and I don't necessarily think it goes away, but I think it becomes a thing where if you have less importance on something, it kind of like it can water it down. Like, for instance, look at MCing as a whole, right? There's been for a long time now, there was a big push of like, it kind of didn't matter if somebody was garbage, like, because you could just call them a hater and you could keep moving on, right? And that it became this thing where like this whole subgenre of garbage rappers became profitable and like able to do their thing. And it's like, part of me is like, oh, just, you know, good for you, do your thing. But the larger part of me is like, yo, that's trash.
It's when the industry takes over. And
I was watching that show, and I know it's comedy. I know it's comedy, but I was watching that new Drewski show where, you know, they put all those artists into a house and like they had them freestyle, and I was like, like,
good luck.
It kind of hurt my soul a bit because I'm like, and like I said, I realize it's comedy and all, and it's kind of like they're grabbing like the bottom of the barrel on purpose kind of thing. But at the same time, I'm like, man, when garbage gets elevated to people who can't tell the difference between, that aren't educated enough to know the difference between garbage and
that
quality.
Becomes the definition.
Yeah, it changes things. And I feel like, for instance, someone who's not versed in music at all, like as far as constructing music, anything like that, not versed in mixing, not versed in any of this stuff, right? If you just prompt something and you get something back and you're like, oh, okay, like that's good, and it can have things in it that are super formulaic, right? But they work because it is that formulaic piece. It's like, well, what happens when all the music is nothing but formulaic? And it's like, the people who are really skilled at it get pushed down because that's so alien to the wider consciousness of people now that they don't accept, you know, like, you know, these deeper concepts in music, you know, because it's like, oh, well, I just want this 4-bar progression and that's all I can handle.
Well, yo, I feel like that's gonna have to be a conversation of its own right there, just that, because that's not even sampling, right? Like that kind of stuff is like a whole nother conversation that I think we could have. But listen, we are 10 minutes over the hour, 11 minutes over the hour. We're gonna go ahead and close out. If anybody got anything they want to say in closing, what's coming up and what we might be working on, tell the people about what's up.
You better tell us about that trifecta.
Yeah, man. Yeah. We are, we Isu's trifectas in production. I think we'll be having an episode talking about that. But things are going well. We have our pre-order up. Go to alimodular.com. You can grab it and be one of the first. Also, we're throwing or switch PCB and faceplates in with it. The BOM will be available on, like, the bill of materials will be available on the website, so you can build your own if you want. That comes with any of the pre-orders. So, yeah.
I got something that I want to show. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Oh, my fault.
Ken? What you got, Ken?
I want to show this. If I can find it. Here we go. If you want to add this to the stream, I want to show this. Oh, you should go there and check that out. Yeah, dude.
Thanks, sir.
This module's dope. I can't say enough for what you guys have been doing with this. Obviously, I've been beta testing it for a while now, and yeah, it came a long way very fast, and it's super dope to use with the way the chains work and everything on it, man. It's like having a channel strip with 3 different effects, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it all in one. Super easy to set up. You don't have to memorize all kinds of weird button combinations and stuff. It just works. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's that immediacy that I love. So,
and we got new algorithms coming out. I mean, we're still working on stuff. So, but we've got a nice palette of effects that you can mix and match, arrange your way.
Unfortunately, it does not auto-tune your vocals.
Or vibe code your music.
You could live pitch it, though. You could live pitch it.
That's true. It does have pitch shifting in it. Yeah.
And Ken, somebody's asking you some stuff here.
Where is that horizon at? I tell you what, man. ASM, we are working extremely hard. And
that's about the most as you could say.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I just want to say, like, that just the whole team, man, I'm still extremely happy being with ASM. Like, I had this conversation with Glenn, the CEO of ASM, just the other day. We were on a phone call, and I just kind of told him, I was like, man, I gotta say, like, I know we're all putting in crazy hours right now, because really the whole team is working 7 days a week, like crazy hours. And it's not because we're forced to do that. It's because we love to do that. And it is like man, you hear people say, like, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. It's that kind of thing. So eventually we'll have something on the horizon for sure. But in the meantime, it's just a lot of passion and work, and eventually one day we'll have something, because otherwise we won't be a business anymore. So, and it has been a while since our last product. So it's been almost 6 years since.
Shout out though to that orange Explorer.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, I don't have a silver edition Hydrasynth, and I don't have a orange Explorer. And I kick myself about that, even though I have so many Hydrasynths in my studio. Like, literally, I've got the Explorer right there. I got a desktop even back behind it. I got 49 key. I got a deluxe, but
you better.
Well, yeah, for sure. But, like, bro, the silver looks so dope, and the orange looks so dope. The silver, there was only 200 made of the deluxe and 200 of the 49 key. So it's
I like the black, bro. Like,
the black is dope, but I'm telling you, like, the silver is crazy in person. Like, when you see them in person, you're like, oh, like, it's Yeah, they look dope. But anyway,
so silver as the silver sides on the black one.
Not really. It's like it's silver, but it has like, you know how like the black has flecks in it. The silver has silver flecks in it that are a bit bigger, and it's just like the way that it kind of shines and glimmers. It looks very high end. Like
What
it's
you
just
call it? A fleck?
yeah, the silver flecks in it. Yeah, flecks like paint flecks.
Yeah.
Am I saying that wrong?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a fleck. Like,
Is it a Delaware accent thing? I don't know what's going on here.
Nah, I'm messing with you.
But nah, like yeah. So you know, I'm working on a bunch of stuff, man. I got sounds coming. I'm trying to make sure that I spend enough time on Trifecta and make sure that I can help out in any way on that. Like that thing is, yeah, I just can't speak enough for that. And also Modbap stuffage, which Corey, why don't you tell us about some Modbap stuffage?
You know, I'm kind of on a little bit of a reset right now as I work on some newer stuff, and also building some newer skill to build some newer stuff. You know what I'm saying? I literally have like a prototype right over here that, you know, if I could show it, it would be kind of dope. I'm sure people would appreciate seeing that. But you know, there's a couple things in the air. I got some new designs for some modules that kind of will complete the line, or at least kind of fill out the system that I've been working on for these years. There is a MK2 sort of version, sort of not version of something coming soon enough. And, you know, I'm just kind of working on some diverse ideas, man. I'm kind of in the trenches. And like I said, this year is more of a reset year to me, because not only with the products, but the running of the business. You know what I'm saying? That is a part of the thing. Like just being able to keep up stuff and leveraging tools to kind of help me keep up on certain things. So yeah, you throw that up there. So yeah, man. Having gone from one product to 7 products, you know.
Technically more if you count the cables and everything. Come on, man.
That's true.
And I bring that up like seriously, man. Those cables are actually dope. Like they're some of my favorite cables in my setup. So,
and there's a lot of them. Like I had to take stock not long ago that there's a good number of SKUs of cables. Like, you know what I mean? I have the shorty ones that I call stubs that are all like 2 to 3 inches. I have other ones that are like splitters.
I actually need to place an order on some of them stubs now. I use that kind of cable a lot in my rack.
Go down. The
right angle ones.
Yeah, they're all right angle. Like, go to shop cables, hit the down arrow, go to cables.
I tend to like these better.
And these right here are really dope too. The 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch ones are super useful.
Yeah.
And these guys that split.
The divvy cables that do a little split, and they have a right angle side on them. Actually, I feel like not enough people know about all the cables that I carry and that I've made, and all of the ends are molded with Modbap too, by the way. But at the same time, I sell a lot of cables, right? So some people know, but I definitely think that not enough people know. And then these are the stubs. They're just very short for those really short throws from one module to the next kind of thing. To keep things neat and stuff, and it has the Modbap sort of color scheme and everything. So anyway, you know, that's kind of where I'm going, and I actually got another couple of cables that I've kind of can't wait to get done as well. So yeah, a lot of stuff on the horizon, man.
I gotta stop sharing my screen because I don't know what kind of payment information it's gonna show.
Yeah. And so yeah, this is a reset year, but yo, I want to thank everybody for coming by and kicking it with us for this hour. And not next weekend, but the following weekend we'll be back. And Ali, I think that's the show we're gonna dedicate to Ali Modular and the new module, right?
Yep.
Cool. So we'll do that then, and so we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Yes.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.